Oh, hello, everybody. This is Joe Cox, and you're listening to the Pop Marketing Podcast. Oh boy, do I have a great guest today. I have over here Kristian Hansen. Kristian, what's up? Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for
How
the
you doing?
opportunity. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Kristian is the founder over at Slö Jeans with a mission, and it's a not just a little mission of redefining what it means to build companies through community, which I can't wait to talk about specifically that, and as well as giving people a better choice to fast fashion with taking it slow, like the opposite of fast fashion. Thanks for being on the show. So good to have you on the podcast because fashion's a super ultra strong pillar to popular culture, right? Like it just always is there. It's and I'm excited to learn more because apart from anything to do with like sneaker fashion, it's a blind spot. So it's so awesome to have you on to kind of learn more and see how things are evolving in 2023. There's so much like just the story. I mean, my favorite. I just think that if your brand doesn't have a origin story, like you're already starting off on a limp foot, right? Like it's a hard job anyway, but you need that origin story. And Slö 100% has that origin story. Let's start off with how you got into the fashion industry as an entrepreneur, and specifically, how did Slö take shape?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, slow was an accident. We have to take a couple of steps back before the accident, but I got into fashion also kind of accidentally. I was a hockey player, and my hockey career ended abruptly, as most hockey careers end. And basically, I needed something to do to kind of get out of my own head, and I was fortunate to know someone who knew someone who knew someone who was working in fashion, and was like, "Look, if you can negotiate, you like to travel, and you like, clothes, let me help you get a job." And so, I started basically just in sourcing and just basically going like factory to factory to factory, trying to, help with audits and things like that. Really boring, really, but it opened up a massive worldview on, oh my God, this is how clothes are made in a really, really horrible, negative way. Like, wow, this is a really broken industry that really needs change. And I wasn't sleeping so well at night. And so I started to think, okay, how can I do this myself? And I had a couple of projects that didn't have as cool of an origin story to begin with. And I was just kind of hopping from project to project to project. And finally, one really cold winter day in the middle of the pandemic in Montreal, I just went shopping, and I went to a thrift shop. I like thrift shops. I bought a pair of jeans. I brought them home. I wasn't allowed to try them on because we were in the depth of the pandemic. And the next morning, I put them on to walk to the metro station. Went to put my phone in my pocket, and there was no pocket. And I was like, what is happening here? I had no one to talk to, no one to rant to, about 40 followers on social media. And I was like, I need to make a TikTok and talk about this because these are women's jeans and they suck. And so I just made a TikTok and I said, hey, ladies of the world, is this what you deal with on a regular basis? These are horrible. Like, this is the first pair of women's pants I've ever worn in my life. I'm 6'3", so most women's pants aren't made for me. And at the end of the day, by the time I got off at the metro stop that I was going, I had hundreds of thousands of views on that video and hundreds of people pouring into the comments going, yes, this is what we deal with. I was already in the industry and I was like, oh my God, this is a market. This is a problem that needs to be solved. If there's thousands of people that are telling me that this is a problem, looks like there's a solution. And so Slö essentially was born by an accidental thrift shop purchase.
So no pockets. I mean, like I gotta stop you there. I am as blind to this, even with daughter and wife. Like it's just not something I ask them about, right? It doesn't come up in the conversation. But jeans without pockets, what's going on? What is this? Is this commonality?
Well, it is. I mean, even still on the market, I'd say about 97% of women's jeans either have a teeny tiny little 1-inch pocket or no pockets. It's been the case now for about 30, 40 years. Kind of in the late 80s, early 90s, fashion designers decided that women cared a lot more about the shape of clothing and how it made them look than functionality. And, fashion manufacturers realized they could save a lot of money not putting pockets on things. And they basically just kind of ran with it. And there's a whole argument that kind of goes in a different direction, that there is deeper meanings to it. And I don't want to get into it because I'm not a fashion historian per se. But from the designers that I speak to this day, they think that women don't want them. And I have to say, well, actually, that's where you're wrong, because I have 120,000 people on an email list telling me otherwise. And it's still a debate to this day, but that was the core of what we were built on. And I had this realization. I was like, look, this is either going to be 15 minutes of fame, and maybe I can make a couple of pairs of jeans and make a little bit of money for myself, or we can actually start something. We can start a brand and a movement and a company. And I don't want this to be 15 minutes of fame. I want this to be the beginning of building $1 billion brand. And so that was basically the realization of, we've got an in, let's not waste this. And basically we've been building for a year now.
So you got an in and you got like a demand, and you're like, this is it. This is what this business is all about, is like you find that there's a big customer demand that nobody's looking at because we've been doing it the same way. And you're like, this is it. This is what we all dream about, as entrepreneurs or people that are looking for products, is like falling into, like you said, accidentally falling into like a demand that nobody else is picking up to and tuning into that. And seeing it happen on TikTok is rad too. So let's talk then. And that's really specifically cool because it's like a product benefit, right? Like it's like our product is broken. We need a different thing. I want pockets, or I want a different kind of fit, or whatever it is. I'm not getting it out there. What about the other side of this, which is, your brand's called Slö, not spelled as an SLOW, but in the idea of very specifically going against a thing or opposite of a thing called fast. And fast fashion is something I think we've heard of, but it would love to hear a little bit more on like the benefit that we've had, how fast fashion came in, and why would you ever pick slow to fast?
Sure. Yeah. So, fast fashion is a relatively new concept. Probably realistically within the last 20 years. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, the way that fashion companies used to operate, before the year 2000, they would have, a winter collection, a spring collection, a summer collection, and maybe something in between. 4 or 5 collections a year. That was pretty standard. That was pretty basic. And if you didn't like what you saw, kind of too bad. And in the 2000s, once we started really outsourcing labor, in the 90s, jeans and different garments were still being made in North America. And, basically the cost of things was just a little bit higher. We realized, hey, we can make that same t-shirt in Bangladesh for $1. Let's go and do it. And let's make 150,000 of them at a time. And so we went from 4 or 5 collections a year to 50 collections a year. And I'm sure you've been to many of those stores where you walk in and every single time everything is completely different. And that really was the beginning of fast fashion. It was this idea of smaller quantities consistently creating and creating and creating. And it's really grown into this behemoth now where everything is constantly changing. And beyond that, everything is constantly being standardized in order to keep the pace. Whereas a brand would have previously maybe made a pair of jeans in 15 sizes, they're now trying to make it in 6. Whereas they maybe would have had 3, inseams or lengths, they now only have the 1, because it's easier for them to pump out 100,000 pieces in 6 sizes than it is in 15 sizes. And so we've created this monster due to the demand and due to the rise of social media and kind of the changing in pop culture of constantly needing to evolve with trends, where we're always looking for a new wardrobe. And with that, we're always looking for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper things. And when you're looking for cheaper, quality is decreasing, the longevity of a garment is decreasing, et cetera, et cetera. And so really what fast fashion has evolved into, end of story, is a big behemoth of an industry that is standardizing as much as they possibly can, producing as many different things as much as they possibly can, and trying to change the trends as quickly as they possibly can to match what they feel is the consumer demand. And we are trying to be the opposite of that, essentially, where we have 100 sizes and we don't have 50 different things coming out every month. We have staples. Right now, we are denim. We're going to continue to just be denim for the time being. Eventually, we will do head to toe fashion, but we're not chasing trends. We're chasing those staple pieces that are in your wardrobe and can be in your wardrobe for generations. They're not designed to be worn 5 or 6 times and thrown away. They're designed for someone to accidentally stumble upon your closet one day, maybe your grandkid, and go, oh my God, that's the jeans that you used to wear? That's hilarious. I want to try those. And that's really the way that fashion used to be. Like 100 years ago, you would go to a tailor or a seamstress or someone and have clothes made for you, made to your body, made to your preferences, to your specifications. And that's really what we're trying to do, is bring the fashion industry back in that direction, where you tell me what you want. You tell me how you want it made. You tell me what fabric you want. You tell me, of all of these different things I can do for you, what do you want? And I make them for you and I send them to you.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like, man, it's just like something that is more personalized to you and the fit you're looking for, and not being squished into one of 6 different sizes. Yeah, like that sounds great. Uh, what what do you think is the what are you trading somebody? Because fast fashion has convenience and it has like cheap, right? Like, what is it about slow fashion and that personalization? How are you scaling that personalization? How do you get me that without having me, I assume, go to a tailor? Like, what are you doing with slow to make that a scalable thing that somebody can maybe take care of themselves?
Yeah, so basically, I'm calling you today from Istanbul in Turkey. I'm building my own manufacturing facility because there isn't one that can do this at scale. And that's really what we have to do, is we have to completely reinvent the industry all the way down to how we pick our fabric. And so really the whole goal here is to create a system that allows people as many options and choices as possible, but still within a system. You know, we still have a size set per se. I'm not making bespoke jeans where every single, measurement is to the quarter inch of what you've given me. I just have 100 of them, and so I can match you to 99% of what you need. At the end of the day, the human body has limits. We know for the most part what those limits are, and so we've created a size set to ensure that we can fit pretty much the entire population. From there, it's just about building out that process. We have a selection of fabrics. You tell me which one you want. We have a selection of cuts. You tell me which one you want. We take your sizing via 3D scan. We take those 3D measurements and we match them to a size. And then it's the fun stuff, thread colors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the process that we're trying to build right now. The trade-off per se is time. It takes us about 30 days to do that. And that's about the timeline that we're going to probably continue to need, 21 to 30 days. And so if you're willing to wait 21 to 30 days, we will craft you these jeans that are made for you to your preferences. But we're not, a Levi's where you can order in tomorrow, like an Amazon Prime delivery, they show up.
So if you thought about that too, like, I'm a big fan. I worked, and this is going to sound, well, you went from hockey to fashion industry. So like, and you're in this from playing hockey here in Canada to in the States to being in Istanbul building a manufacturing system for Slow. So you can make jumps. I worked with, and this is going to sound weird, but I worked with a wings place, Wingstop,
Okay.
right? Like, and they were trying to push the same weird thing, and it was about wait time, because wings take 15 minutes, man. Like, it's like, if you want them done right, like, they're gonna take time to like fry up right. If you want them the way you want them, they can do it faster, but you're not going to get what you want. So a lot of what we were doing is like, really, how do we bend people into that wait, right? Like, how do we get them to like appreciate the wait instead of seeing that as like a bad thing. Like, I need to go buy McDonald's because I can get it instantly. I don't know. That's not what I'm looking for. So how have you seen do you see people reacting to kind of a wait in a way of like, it makes it more of an event when they do get that pair of jeans in the mail? Or is there anything are you keeping in touch with them over that 30 days?
Yeah, so basically what we're building here is we're calling it our TAS system as a poke at SaaS. The goal is it's transparency as a service. And so what we do is we are QR coding and RFID tagging every single garment. And so as it moves through the process in whatever factory or wherever it is, so we have to move them around a little bit, at every stage, you're going to get an email update and you're going to get just that little bit of dopamine that hits because you're going to know your jeans just
Yes.
finished being cut. Your jeans just finished being sewn. Your jeans just finished at the wash. We'll send them a picture at the halfway point so they can see them halfway there. So really the core of it is a huge feedback loop with people. And, even when we've had monster delays on our first couple of launches because we just had way too much demand and we didn't completely know how to kind of make it work to begin with. We had people waiting months and we were keeping in touch with them and they were happy. And when they finally received their jeans, it was like Christmas Day in, March or whenever it was. And so really just that kind of going back to the roots of how we built the company to begin with, that community and that feedback loop and that kind of personal touch, we try really, really hard to keep the conversation moving at all times with our customers. And that's really the only way that this is going to work and is going to continue to work because we source all of our ideas from our community. We're community funded. We were literally, instead of going with traditional investors, we did crowdfunding. And so everything comes from this community. If we don't get their thoughts in real time, we can't survive. And so that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, that's killer. And it task kind of bleeds into that too, of like hey, it's the communication, right? Like even when you get it, it's like constant communication of where your singled out pair of your garment is, right? I
Yeah.
love that. Love it. I love
And
it.
beyond that, most fashion brands really don't want you to look inside of their factories. They're
No.
embarrassed by them. It's a horrible PR move. I don't want to just show you the inside of my factory. It's an open door policy. You can come and see it anytime you want. But at the same time, I want you to know how many people it takes to make a pair of pants. It is unbelievably complicated. I thought it was so easy when I first got into this. It is so complicated. Like 30 different people will be involved in making a pair of pants. And so with this system, we're creating scanners with profiles of the people working in our factories so you can know the name of the person that cut your jeans, the name of the person that sewed your jeans. And by the end of it, you're going to have this little report card basically of you ordered on this date, they were cut on this date, they were sewn on this date, and by who. And so our goal is to let people in on like a level of transparency that just doesn't exist in this industry.
So you brought it up. This is the great transition to community, right? Like building a brand through community. And that's a revolution in its own right, right? And kind of brought what brought us this superpower or even the ability to even attempt it is social media, right? And then the connection points that we have. And it's not like we throw everything else away. I'm sure email, there's other ways you're communicating to this community, but community building has really kind of taken shape, especially in the last 5 years, of like how the power of the communities. What does like building a company through community mean to you and mean to Slö? Because you had a really big push at the first of like this demand coming through. So how did that kind of change how you saw community building and its power?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that it was always a something that was important, and you hear it thrown around a lot on podcasts
You
like this.
do.
You hear big brands talking about community, and a lot of it is BS. And you'll
Rarely do they have a community.
exactly,
Rarely. Like
exactly,
it's not you have a bunch of people maybe
yeah.
you've gathered
And maybe you
and
have a
list.
Discord. Like that doesn't mean that you have a
Maybe.
community, right? And so you hear about it, and you hear this word, and it gets thrown around a lot. And it really took me a long time to realize it. And when I started to realize it, and to this day I still realize it, when I see orders come through and I know who they are. And I've never
Yeah.
met this person. I don't know what they look like. I don't know where they live, but I know their names. I know their names from their handles. I know their names from being in Discord. I know their names from sending me emails. I'm here packing orders right now, and probably 7 out of 10, I can recall a conversation that I've had with that person. I can recall a suggestion that they've made that actually made it on the final product that I'm packing for them. And so community doesn't work if you actually don't follow through with what people ask of you. And that's really, I think, the big disconnect for most brands is community is not, I have a lot of comments or people fill out my forms. It's, do you actually do anything with that data? And do the people in your quote unquote community actually feel like you do anything with it? And so for us, the power of that came from, I put out a form and I was just like, hey, it's a really horrible Google form, but hey, can you just tell me, like, describe your dream jeans? I just made it a long answer and I put it out there and I made a bunch of videos. And over the course of about 3 months, I collected almost 700,000 responses. Like, just the stupidest amount of words about jeans that you could ever imagine ever. And, so much so that we literally needed to build like data scraping tools to go through it all. I tried to go through them all line by line. It just wasn't even possible. And that was when it really dawned on me. It was like, I have to base this entire company on this, because there are brands that would pay $1 million for this spreadsheet. And I literally got it in 5 TikTok videos. This is the future. And fashion has always been this really one-sided conversation. You get a big brand that makes a collection, they hire a celebrity to endorse said collection, they produce it, they put it out, and they say, you want this. And people go, ooh, I do want that. It's a completely one-sided, discussion. It's not, hey, everyone, what would you like me to make? No one ever asks that question. And then I came along and asked that question and people freaked out. And so really that to me was the first kind of moment, kind of trying to loop back to the question. That was the first kind of moment where it was like Slö and community, they do not exist without one another. And I never want to be the brand that just says, hey, you want this? I've made it. No, every single thing that we do is based on data, and every single, garment that we produce, every single piece of it was a suggestion from someone in our community.
So traditionally, I would say new brand, new product. Let's light up. If I'm an investor, it's like light up that marketing, right? Like, who's the celeb going to be behind this? What are or the influencers, and how much budget do you have to marketing? Because like you're going to be going against the big dogs, like people that have been there for forever, that have those budgets. So how does, building with the community kind of first in mind, how do you answer that differently? What's marketing look like?
Well, I've generated $1 million from one TikTok with $0 in ad spend. So the reality is, I think all of those principles, it's the same as basically trying to study what IBM did and tell me that's how you build a startup. It was really, really great at one point in time. And
Right.
there was a time in marketing where the only way to get traffic was to pay for traffic. It was literally, you either needed a huge existing following, you needed to pay to get that following. There was kind of no viral per se until we really started to see TikTok and Reels and short form video content really take over. And that's when all of a sudden overnight you could have followers. You would need to buy a billboard because X amount of cars went by. And that's how, potentially someone would see your brand, or a newspaper. It's going to be in 100,000 editions. So all of a sudden, traffic is free if you're entertaining enough. And that is really what changed everything for us. It was like, okay, community is the key, because if we make what people want, then the people who suggest things, they're going to want to buy it. And if those people see that we listen to those other people, then they're going to suggest things, and then they're going to want to buy it. And as long as you have basically a mediator in the middle that can provide any form of basic entertainment and bring them along for the ride, they're in, they're hooked. It's like a real life reality TV show, and people pay for those. And so that was really the big change in my ideology. And I think that basically in the last 2-3 years, all traditional online advertising and marketing fundamentals have gone out the window. And there are still a place for it in different consumer products and D2C products. But in terms of fashion and anything that is, you can personalize, I don't know why you would continue to pay Mark Zuckerberg millions of dollars to rent his platform. That's essentially all it is when you make ads.
How do you pull them? How are you pulling them over to the Slö community from TikTok? Like, how do you get where is that going on? Where are I better question would be, what's like that mix of what channels are you using to communicate with your community, and where is there like a middle ground? Is that the email address? Is that it? What does that look like?
Sure. We have literally the world's most stupid simple funnel, and it's literally all
Awesome.
social medias to a website that specifically just has a form for whatever the question is that we're trying to get people to answer, and that subscribes them to an email list. And now, even if the algorithm on Reels or algorithm on TikTok or anywhere decides to hate me for a couple of weeks, I can send them an email. And so the entire goal is always get as much social media traffic as possible and just get them on an email list. I don't even need them to go to the website. If they want to go to the website, great, they can. It's there. But, I don't ask them to go and buy something. I never ask someone to buy something. I have never made a video that's like, ooh, look at this shiny new thing, go and buy it. All of our marketing is indirect. All of our marketing is like, hi, I'm doing this thing. By the way, that's the brand.
Awesome. What about learnings from TikTok? So you kind of jumped in, and I mean, I've heard this story a ton. It's a great story. It's like, hey, this platform gave us the ability to do this, and whether you're a nurse or whether you're into like asking a question about jeans, and whether you're making balloon art, like it has given people, this virality, and without cringing, I can say that it gives people kind of this audience through its algorithm. So what have you learned from going from zero to from making that move super quick, right? Like, what have you learned is the way to communicate on TikTok, and does that transfer to directly to Reels? Does that transfer to other channels, or what have you unpacked in the world of TikTok? What makes great content?
Yeah, I mean, because so this is kind of multifaceted, and I think it comes down to some arguments that some people would disagree with me on, but I think it comes down to this ideology of, are you an influencer or are you a content creator? Because I don't think they're the same thing, and I really, really would strongly argue that point. And so when people talk about like, oh, there's these TikTok influencers and there's these people, and that you're right that that's a thing, and overnight something can happen. But for me, I always wanted to be a content creator. And that's the really important distinction. Because to me, what that means is you are an entertainer and you are essentially the show that that person is deciding to watch for the couple of minutes that they're giving you of their attention. I realized very quickly that the types of TikToks that don't work are the ones that resemble ads, because no one on their lunch break wants to watch ads. They want to be entertained. And TikTok is what people are grabbing when they go to the bathroom, when they're watching, whatever, when they're sitting in the bathtub, when they're going for lunch, when they're on a long car ride. And that entire moment, it took me a while to figure out they don't care about the price or what this is or how much is left, or they want to see some crazy dude walking around the middle of a random garment district in Istanbul, looks like he sticks out like a sore thumb, and do something really crazy. And as a result, they're like, "Oh my god, I'm going to follow this guy. This is kind of fun. I feel like I'm invested in this." And so, kind of long story short, I think the way to go is that if you are trying to build that community, you're trying to go in that direction, or you're trying to really learn TikTok, learn why you like TikTok. Why do you like it? I started just taking all of my favorite creators, going through all of their most viral videos and writing down, like, second by second, okay, what happens in the first 10 seconds that made me want to stay and watch this video? And every single time, it's because it's engaging, it's entertaining, and I have a good time. It makes me want to share it. It makes me want to comment on it. It makes me want to participate in whatever it is that they want me to participate. And so, in terms of your question of, does it translate to other places? I think the principle does, in the sense that most people on social media just want to be entertained. And I think different platforms have different opinions on what that means. TikTok is a lot more communications based between creators and people. I find there's a lot more conversation on TikTok than there is on Instagram, which is a little bit more of a one-way communication. People comment on things, they don't ask questions. They kind of just give you statements, and then people argue about statements. So it's really about understanding the platform, but the core fundamental is the same. Do something cool, and there is someone that finds what you are doing cool. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do that. But no, cool. You make a artisanal candle. Great. Don't show me the candle. Show me you making it, all of the heartache that goes into it, all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then maybe I'm going to be really keen on understanding what it is that you're doing. And so that was really the breakthrough moment for me. It was like, I like to entertain. I like to be, in the spotlight. I was kind of that person growing up. And I have this platform now. Let me entertain. And if we make money in the process, great. And if we don't, then we figure it out.
Yeah, I noticed, and it seems strategic, or it's like, hey, it's on purpose that the TikTok account that you have isn't necessarily Slö Jeans account. It's your account,
Yeah.
right? Like it's yours, and it's coming from you. On that, right? You're the character. You are the person that they're watching go through this process at the same time as they're, checking out stuff. As you're scrolling through a ton of different kinds of stuff, right? Like as they're going through, you're the one that they're watching, which isn't traditionally how it is. Especially it's like a superpower, especially to the big companies. I don't want to watch most CEOs or go through their day
Yeah.
because it sucks. And it would probably just not something that would be great PR necessarily of the problems. But when you're making something new and you're starting it from the beginning, that's a story, right? Like that is putting you into weird spots, building things in Istanbul and going through the trials and tribulations as it happens. Like you said, it's like gives you that little reality show dopamine, right? Like the who knows what's going to happen next, kind of thing. I dig it a ton. What? Well, I mean, you've been around now. Like you've seen different parts of the world. Jeans, like what do you? Is jeans different in the states than it is? You think this is a global phenomenon? Is this a men and women and everyone phenomenon in jeans fit alone, or do you see like there be differences in cultures when they think about jeans and jean fit?
Fit, absolutely. But jeans,
Mm-hmm.
it there is no denying, and it's actually the research has been done. It's the most popular clothing item on earth. There are
Crazy.
over 10 countries that denim is a $1 billion industry. As a whole, it's almost a $200 billion industry per year. Unbelievable. We produce about 3.5 to 4 billion pairs of jeans per year. It's just a stupidly large market that no one would expect to be such a large market. And it is so unbelievably boring. No one has done anything new in this entire segment in like 100 years. It's basically the exact same stuff consistently. Brands just copying off of one another over and over and over again. Levi's was the first, and then it was Lee, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And to be honest, everyone, for the most part, whether it's big here in Turkey or being anywhere across Europe or even in the Far East, the denim is the same. Japanese denim, which is regarded as some of the best in the world, really at its core is no different than that's made in Italy or that's made in Portugal or that's made in Bangladesh. The levels of quality change and how you make it changes, but the reality is that it's just cotton weaved on top of each other, dyed with indigo, and people love it. And it's this piece that everyone has in their closet, regardless of culture, that's supposedly supposed to be built to last. Fast fashion's kind of ruined that one. But the reality is it's a very long-lasting staple piece. And so, yeah, we've seen every market on earth. We've sold now to 55 different countries. We get orders. I just leave it open all the time. I don't care what the shipping costs. We lose money on all of those orders to weird places. I don't care. I just think it's awesome. We've delivered jeans to like the Marshall Islands and the Falkland Islands and some really crazy northern point of Greenland, like places that just you're like, why are these people finding me on TikTok and ordering jeans? But it's awesome. And so, yeah, it transcends culture, it transcends location. It's just a staple. And I think fashion talks, especially in this world.
Yeah, I mean it's very familiar to pop culture in general, and the West definitely kind of got a leg up on telling the stories. Hollywood, through different things that have gone on, to be able to kind of tell certain stories that no matter where I travel transcend. It's like a universal language. People know what Friends, the sitcom, is.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
you're going to get the same pull in anywhere you take it. So I'm just curious on your thoughts on this. Do you think, and when it comes to fashion, do you think popular culture shapes fashion, or do you think fashion kind of helps shape popular culture?
I think it's a give and take relationship for sure. I mean, if you think about just kind of like, let's take a modern example. Let's take like the most recent season of Stranger Things, one of the most popular shows on earth. Probably, I think it's Netflix's top three most popular shows ever.
Yep.
Uh, that show being set in the time of kind of old school 80s Americana completely changed the fashion landscape. In the same way that when Wednesday was released 3 or 4 months later, it completely changed the fashion landscape. But the landscape of what those characters wear in those shows comes from an origin point, right? And that 80s look that they're trying to achieve in Stranger Things to capture a particular feeling came from what was physically being created at that time. That goth look came from basically exactly the same thing at a different time. And so I think they go hand in hand in today's world where everything is dictated by pop culture and pop culture changes with that Netflix effect or with whatever is kind of trending in the moment. I think we're just kind of taking a looking glass back in time. And, they say fashion comes and goes in cycles, and we're seeing it right now. I mean, you went from the 80s and the 90s with jeans where it was as baggy as possible, as loose fitting as possible. You look at then the 90s and you had jackets, the big, super big arms. Talk about Friends, like Joey from Friends, right? Big wavy arms. And then early 2000s, you went the complete opposite, as tight as humanly possible. And now what's back? All the 70s and 80s cuts all over again. And so I think, they go hand in hand. They wouldn't exist without one another. And I think it's the driver of creativity, because I think when someone sits down to make a piece of content or a movie or a TV show, fashion is something that inspires what they're trying to create. And the same way, the other way around, when we sit down and try and design a pair of jeans, is what do we want people to feel? And we use those TV shows and everything as inspiration. It's a beautiful loop of creativity.
It is, and it's not probably worth being chicken or egg. It's like it is 100% a loop, and you see things like TikTok really. We've gone and we've mushed everything together, right? Like it is like whatever we're feeling or however we want it, and it's like they're just different paintbrushes instead of making a huge decision. It was like you said, the channels made sense in a certain time when there was cable and everybody was watching the exact same thing, and there was more ability to like just push a one-way message out there and say you want this, and we know we have all the eyeballs. Then you do it in a different way than on TikTok. It's like I have a choice and I find my core, I find my group that has the same ideas that I have, whatever that is. And I do like that mixed bag of we can, it's a uh, different kinds of fashion, different looks and feels can all be kind of smushed together, and it doesn't really necessarily define like you can change
Yeah.
right from a Wednesday to Stranger Things,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And choose the ones you want. I dig it, man. Love your kind of insight into popular culture, and then bringing it back to jeans is crazy. So tell me about, like you said, hey, right now we're focused on jeans. Is there a bigger opportunity? Is there a bigger vision there from to go to different kind of key parts of somebody's wardrobe? And is there a demand there as well? As you kind of build this community up, what else are people demanding that they're not getting from the fashion industry where it's at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a staggering number when we consider how many things are made on Earth. But about 65% of all fashion that is produced are what we would consider basics, as in t-shirts, jeans, basic jackets, underwear, socks, all of those things that everyone needs, everyone owns, and billions of pairs are being produced of all of the above. So really for me, for my main goal is to ensure that, that's where we want to start, because if we can go after 65% of this market and make it better, make it more personal, make it more sustainable, make it more ethical, that is the core of everyone's closet. And, my goal isn't world domination per se, but it is to replace an industry that is doing a ton of damage to the world. From a sustainability perspective, the fashion industry produces more CO2 than all of the aviation and all of maritime shipping combined. It's ridiculous.
Uh,
Think about every airplane in the sky and every ship in the ocean. And so as a result, we're producing billions of pounds of textile waste. And if you just go to a mall and take a look around and ask yourself the question, was that produced to be thrown away? And if you walk into a store and you see a T-shirt with a really crappy slogan on it, like live fast, die young" or something, that shirt was not designed to transcend generations. It's designed to be worn a few times and thrown away. And that's the problem. And that doesn't mean that you can't have fun with your closet. That doesn't mean that you can't have those pieces. But the core foundation of everyone's closet should be those staple pieces that aren't designed to be thrown away, that are designed to last as long as possible, be as sustainable as possible, then have fun on top of that. And so for me, that's really what we're trying to do, is start with jeans, start with it's the hardest thing. So let's start the hardest and get easier. And hopefully very soon we'll be delivering boxes to people with outfits. We're working on what we're calling Slö Capsule. It's a capsule closet where we'll deliver you a couple of pairs of jeans, maybe a couple of pairs of non-denim pants, a couple of shirts, a couple of jackets, and maybe 3 or 4 t-shirts. And we're going to send you a style guide and show you how you can make 300 outfits from that combination of things, how to dress them up and how to dress them down. And so that way you've got 12 or 15 things in your closet, but they can be worn in every way. And that's a very kind of in the industry kind of thing. Has been popular for a long time, capsules, 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 but it's never really gone mainstream. And so that is really my vision. My goal is to try and capture the market in that regard. And so that everyone has those basics and understands and feels like that those things fit them and that those things belong to them and that they're personal.
Killer. As we get wrap stuff up, I got a couple more thoughts of quicker questions for you. What surprised you on community? Like you said that, you were just asking questions, but it really what has surprised you recently of an insight that you've gotten from your community that you would have never come up with in a million years on your own? Because I only have my own perspective. I'm with you 100%. I might have an idea, but I think there's a certain kind of control that I'm assuming you give up a bit on perceived notions. Do you have an example of what your community has given you as a gift in insight?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of talking to industry people and saying, "Hey, what about here's the most recent example. Hey, what about cargo pants? We should make cargo pants." And designers going, "No, no one wears cargo pants. No one wants those." And then me sending in an email and being like, "Hey, do you guys want cargo pants?" And 10,000 people replying and going, "Yes, I love cargo pants. It's the only thing I wear. Please make those." And then bringing that data and putting it in front of the same person that told me yesterday that the fashion industry trend report says that they're dead. And that happens all the time. And, it's a really challenging kind of ego swallowing thing sometimes, where you have to produce things that you personally would never wear and don't really like. But there's tons of people that do, and there's tons of people that do want them. And so we consistently have that feedback loop where people are like, "Make this." I'm like, "Really? You want me to make that?" Okay, I guess, sure. And, we put it out there and people are stoked. And so that's really, a really beautiful part of that loop. And it's something that I never want to change.
Do you feel like are you having to work hard to get people to share once they've gotten their product? I mean, you've only been running for a year, so you've had a couple under your belt of shipments out there. I see a lot of brands work really hard paying influencers, and we've had that discussion on content creator and influencers, but paying to get the word out, get the right people to wear them, and kind of control that? Have you had it? Have you had? Is it? It's not a problem for you to share, but how are you getting others in the community to share, or are they just doing it?
They are just doing it for better and for worse. We had a couple of sizing mishaps early on where our 3D sizing algorithm was off and we shipped like a few hundred pairs of jeans that were just so horribly sized. And those got posted. But naturally it goes both ways, right? It swings both directions. And we fixed those since. But no, people, when they find something on TikTok, they want to talk about it on TikTok naturally. And we've seen that effect where people are making their first video ever. The majority of our UGC, if we go into people's profiles, is their only video. And we haven't asked them to
Wow.
do it. And we are now working on asking people to do it. One of the big things that we have here in kind of the new factory setup is we need to do a lot of testing of like new cuts and things. And so if we're going to launch a new cut of jeans, I make about 50 to 100 pairs for a size set, for wash tests, for all those different types of things. I want to give those away to people and then get their opinions on them rather than just kind of have them sit on a shelf. And so we've started to reach out to people and be like, hey, look, do you want to kind of be a part of this list of testing people? I'm going to take your measurements. And if I have some samples here, I'll just send them to you. In exchange, all I'm asking is that you post a video with your existing ones and tell me your honest thoughts, the good, bad, and ugly. And that's really worked. And so we've gotten a lot of people who are like, hell yeah, count me in. Like, I want free jeans and I want to sample this and I want to be a part of the process. And they make content all the time. I send them a sample and the next day it's on TikTok. Like, oh my God, look at these unreleased jeans. And they feel so cool because they have these unreleased jeans from this, kind of community that people know about. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle of UGC in a positive and a negative way. But it hasn't been an issue.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, they think it's cool because it's like they're getting something that not nobody has yet, and they're getting that inside track. And I mean, like that's been cool from the beginning of at least my childhood, like from when I knew what cool
Yeah.
was, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like 100%, it's great. And branding that kind of, it's not a VIP, like because you send it out to whoever wants to share and ask, but it's a benefit of the community, right? Like it's another benefit for somebody to hop in. That's cool. Dude, there's so many things. I'm so pumped for you and Slö, and like, you can't. I see it all the time. You can't fake excitement, right? And you can't fake the want to do something, and I think it's a big job to put on your shoulders. Of running community in general and getting people, like getting their voices heard and bringing them that product. Um, so I think that if this is what it looks like in a year, what does it look like next year? When does Istanbul when does this stuff get up and running, and is orders going on now? Can I get a pair of jeans on website now?
Yeah, so I mean, we're between launches right now. The whole custom manufacturing experience, the goal is to have that launched in the fall, so we make it for denim season. So kind of late October, November is the goal to get that up and running. But we're still doing little micro launches right now. So if you're on our email list, which you can sign up on our website, we kind of are doing little 500 piece drops just to kind of gauge interest. To is that cut going to be one of the cuts that ends up in the factory as a reoccurring kind of staple? But yeah, right now we're shipping out all of our last jeans, and then we're gonna have a bunch of new stuff on the website. So yeah, there will be some jeans up there this week. Right now, there's a few. There'll be even more up there this week, and then the big launch windows are going to start appearing in October and November.
Yeah, really excited for Slö. So, and again, thanks for coming on here. What about people that want to ask you some questions about jeans and kind of connect with you there? Is TikTok the place to go?
Yeah, TikTok works. Or you send me an email. I get lots of emails. I have my email everywhere. Anyone can send me an email anytime. I'll always get back to you. I spend a lot of time writing emails. It's just Kristian at slowjeans.co. So it's literally super simple. You can also join our Discord community and send me an or a DM on Instagram. But I'm relatively easy to get a hold of, and I love having conversations. So always.
Kristian, such a pleasure, man. Thanks for joining us from all the way over in Istanbul today. It means a lot. Learned a lot, and keep on keeping on. And you're on it. And I think it's hard making a business, and I think what gives you a real big leg up is that you have this community that is telling you they want it. There's not a guess game,
Yeah.
right? There's not like, and a lot of times I see brands and people, not sure. Like they release something really big without ever really knowing, is this going to be a hit, or are people going to buy what I have? And that's, I think, things like things on the internet have like given us these superpowers to be able to get some sleep at night and not have to worry about, are people going to like this? Yeah, they're telling, like, we know that. So is there anything else that you want to let everybody know before we take off?
No, I think we covered a pretty awesome spectrum
Dude, we
of
were quick.
things.
That was amazing job. And thanks. I'm going to go and order myself some Slö Jeans right now, because God knows, after the pandemic, man, my jeans collection has gone dry, and it's time to go back into the world, and I need some jeans to do that.
Well, send me an email. I'm cooking up some cool stuff that's not on the website. We'll hook you up.
Good, thanks, man.